Sphere comes from the Greek word for ball. A ball is itself a sphere, as is the ball that we call Earth. So is the atmosphere, and so are several other invisible spheres that encircle the Earth. Spherical relating to a sphere, shaped like a sphere, or one of its segments. The girls agreed that the spacecraft had been deep blue and perfectly spherical, and that its alien passengers had resembled large praying mantises. Something spherical is like a sphere in being round, or more or less round, in 3 dimensions. Apples and oranges are both spherical, for example, even though they're never perfectly round. A spheroid has a roughly spherical shape, so an asteroid, for instance, is often spheroidal, fairly round, but lumpy. Stratosphere, 1, the part of the Earth's atmosphere that extends from about 7 to about 30 miles above the surface. 2, a very high or the highest region. In the celebrity stratosphere she now occupied, a fee of $12 million per film was a reasonable rate. The stratosphere, strato, simply means layer or level, lies above the Earth's weather and mostly changes very little. It contains the ozone layer, which shields us from the sun's ultraviolet radiation except where it's been harmed by man-made chemicals. The levels of the atmosphere are marked particularly by their temperatures. Stratospheric temperatures rise only to around 32 degrees, very moderate considering that temperatures in the troposphere below may descend to about -70 degrees, and those in the ionosphere above may rise to 1000 degrees. Biosphere, 1, the part of the world in which life can exist. 2, living things and their environment. The Moon has no biosphere, so an artificial one would have to be constructed for any long-term stay. The lithosphere is the solid surface of the Earth, lith meaning rock. The hydrosphere is the Earth's water, hydro means water, including the clouds and water vapor in the air, and the atmosphere is the Earth's air, atmos meaning vapor. The term biosphere can include all of these, along with the 10 million species of living things they contain. The biosphere recycles its air, water, organisms, and minerals constantly to maintain an amazingly balanced state. Human beings should probably do their best to imitate it. Though the word has a new sound to it, it was first used over 100 years ago. Hemisphere, half a sphere, especially half the global sphere as divided by the equator or a meridian. A sailor who crosses the equator from the northern to the southern hemisphere for the first time is traditionally given a special initiation. Hemisphere includes the prefix hemi dash, meaning half. The northern and southern hemispheres are divided by the equator, the circle halfway between Earth's 2 poles. The eastern and western hemispheres aren't divided so exactly, since there are no poles in the Earth's east-west dimension. Often the dividing line is said to be the prime meridian, the imaginary north-south line that runs through Greenwich, England, from which all longitude is calculated, itself being the 0 degrees meridian. But for simplicity's sake, the Eastern Hemisphere is often said to include all of Europe, Africa, Australia, and Asia, while the Western Hemisphere contains North and South America and a great deal of ocean. Vert comes from the Latin verb vertere, meaning to turn or to turn around. Vertigo is the dizziness that makes it seem as if everything is turning around you. And an advertisement turns your attention to a product or service. Divert, 1, to turn from one purpose or course to another. 2, to give pleasure to by distracting from burdens or distress. The farmers had successfully diverted some of the river's water to irrigate their crops during the drought. The Roman circus was used to provide diversion for its citizens, and sometimes to divert their attention from the government's failings as well. The diversion was often in the form of a fight, men pitted against lions, bears, or each other, and the audience was sure to see blood and death. A diverting evening these days might instead include watching the same kind of mayhem on a movie screen. Converter, a device that changes something, such as radio signals, radio frequencies, or data, from one form to another. She was so indifferent to television that she hadn't even bought a converter, and her old TV sat there useless until she finally lugged it down to the recycling center. Converters come in many forms. Travelers to foreign countries who bring along their electric razors or hair dryers always pack a small electric converter, which can change direct current to alternating current or vice versa. In 2009, millions of Americans bought digital analog converters, small box-shaped devices that change the new broadcast digital signal to the analog signal that older TV sets were made to receive. A catalytic converter is the pollution control device attached to your car's exhaust system that converts pollutants such as carbon monoxide into harmless form. Avert: 1. To turn your eyes or gaze away or aside. 2. To avoid or prevent. General Camacho's announcement of lower food prices averted an immediate workers' revolt. Sensitive people avert their eyes from gory accidents and scenes of disaster. But the accident or disaster might itself have been averted if someone had been alert enough. Negotiators may avert a strike by all-night talks. In the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, it seemed that nuclear catastrophe was barely averted. Aversion means dislike or disgust, that is, your feeling about something you can't stand to look at.